What is up, everybody? This is your boy Josh Burton from the Everything College Basketball Podcast and the House of College Hoops Network. And I'm here today to give you my top 10 March Madness moments of my lifetime that I've been able to watch in some form or capacity, whether that be live, whether it be obviously go back and tape version, in some form that I've been able to watch in my lifetime in almost 35 years on this earth, which is crazy to say. So let's start in reverse order, obviously. Let's go with moment number 10. And for a Kentucky fan, that's going to sound weird. We go back to 2016, the Elite Eight game, North Carolina, Kentucky, two blue bloods going head to head. And yes, I'm talking about moment number 10 being the Luke May game winner. If you remember that game, back and forth action, two incredible teams dueling it out to go to the Final Four. And if you remember at the very end, Malik Monk hits a crazy three-point shot at the top of the key. North Carolina does not call timeout. They speed back down the floor. And then Luke May hits what ends up being like a 17-foot shot to put Kentucky out of the tournament, move North Carolina into the Final Four. Not only is that memorable, and then why you would ask why I would pick this as a Kentucky fan, because there's a kind of a funny story behind this as well. So I was living in a trailer at the time that had a low kind of roof, and I'm nervous during these games, especially big games right during March. And I had my hand up on the ceiling of the trailer there, and Malik Monk hits the shot, and I'm all excited. And then as soon as Luke May hits the game winner to knock Kentucky out of the tournament, my hand accidentally sort of goes through the roof, makes a big hole. A friend of mine has to come patch it up, help me patch it up a couple days later. C'est la vie. But that's moment number 10 because Kentucky gets knocked out in an exciting fashion. And it's a funny story that I put a hole through my trailer's roof. So there you have it. Number 9 in my countdown of top 10 March Madness moments, Jordan Poole, Michigan, Houston. In the round of 32, Houston has the lead. Freshman Jordan Poole gets the ball, sprints it up, probably a 30-foot shot. Bam! Onions. Game winner. Jordan Poole's game winner. I just remember the hysteria of that, watching that game live, thinking Houston is moving on. And this is kind of the start of the Houston rebuild as well to where they're at current day here in 2024, one of the best teams in the country. They were starting that climb back. Jordan Poole, the cojones of a freshman, to step up and take that shot and hit it from about 30 feet out. Yeah, that was pretty memorable. Moment number 8 in my top 10 March Madness moments. The first time that I can ever remember in my lifetime being alive to, long enough to actually watch these games, go back to 2016. Villanova, North Carolina, in the national championship. Marcus Page is the shot people forget that he hits a crazy clutch three to tie this game up. Villanova goes the length of the floor. Ryan Archid, I think it was, if I remember right, it was Ryan Arcidiacono, hands it off. Chris Jenkins, trail three. Phil Rafferty says it best. Onions! Villanova national champions. I mean, what an incredible moment that was. Moment number 7 in my top 10 countdown. We go back to 1998. I was on the verge of being 9 years old since my birthday's in June. I was 8 at this point. I was in school when this happened, but I remember getting out and my dad just going nuts, telling me about it, seeing the highlights. Obviously, I've seen those play a million times, and it's none other than Bryce Drew and Valparaiso. The play draw against the higher seeded Ole Miss running Rebs. And the play call, we ran it when I was in high school. I've coached this play design in case of a last-second shot that needs to occur. You have to go the length of the floor. What a beautiful play design by Homer Drew. They throw the ball in. They get the catch. Drew, without breaking stride, catches the ball. The pass, too. The pass, I forget the guy's name who made the catch on the initial pass from the baseline. Catches a little touch pass. He didn't have enough time to come down with it, throw it, or anything. He catches it, touches it. Bryce Drew in stride, three-pointer, leaning into it. Bam! Valpo, one of the most historic shots in all of college basketball history. It made Bryce Drew and Valparaiso and Homer Drew, for that matter, household names around the college basketball landscape. I will never forget that. So at number 7, Bryce Drew and Valpo's shot. Or let me say it again. Bryce Drew's shot to move Valpo on and end Ole Miss's NCAA tournament in 1998. Moment number 6. We've got another game winner with another Indiana flair here. Talking about R.J. Hunter. R.J. Hunter is a kid I seen in high school play at Pike High School. He was teammates in high school with national champion from Kentucky, Marcus Teague. They played on the same high school up in Indianapolis together at Pike High School. He went to Georgia State to play with his dad, Ron Hunter, who used to be the coach at IUPUI. So we got all these Indiana connections yet again. They're playing as a 14 seed against the heavy favorite 3-seeded Baylor in the NCAA tournament. And the game's close. They've got Baylor on the ropes. And then the final shot, they are down 2 points. R.J. Hunter gets the ball. The announcers are going crazy about they need to get a shot up. They need to get a shot up. And all he proceeds to do is just hit a crossover. Bam! Onions, top of the key 3. And not only was the shot spectacular for the upset win, but the reaction of his head coach and his dad, Ron Hunter, is legendary as well, where he's falling and stumbling over his chair. The great shot of him laying on the floor after he kind of fell over, going, yeah. How can you not put that on your list? What a great moment in college basketball lore, especially March Madness lore. These are the type of moments that we live for that makes March so fun. So that was number 6. My number 5 moment is what happened before I was born. I was born in 1989. This happened 2 years prior to my arrival on this earth. But this is a special one I've heard about many a times. I've seen the full game many a times and broken it down for videos. And I've seen this shot 100 million times. It's hard not to if you live in the state of Indiana. Number 5 moment on my top 10 March Madness moments, Keith Smart's game winner in 1987. For Indiana, he hits the game winner, falling away towards the baseline, hits the game winner, ends up being the last title Indiana has won since then. But what a moment. My dad watched this live. This is back when he was still an Indiana fan as well, back in those days, and tells me the whole story about it. And he can, to this day in 2024, he can replay you the exact moments that happened that led it to who made the pass and all that. But Keith Smart's shot, the last shot to win a last national championship for the Indiana Hoosiers, will forever go down in lore. And it has personal connection to my family as well. So moment number 5, Keith Smart's game winner in 87 to win the title for the Indiana Hoosiers over Syracuse. Moment number 4. Now this is another fun one. Ali Farouk-Manesh, or as I've always called him since, if I remember right, it was Kevin Harlan on the call, Ali Farouk my brackets. Back in 2010, Ali Farouk-Manesh and his Northern Iowa team had won their first round game in the 8-9 matchup. They were the 9th seeded team in this NCAA tournament, playing the heavily favored 1-seeded Kansas Jayhawks, who got the overall number 1 seed that year in the NCAA tournament. They were playing the second round game. Northern Iowa battled, kept it close, had Kansas on the ropes many times. They had Kansas down by double digits. Kansas is rallying back. They're going to do what Bill Self and the Jayhawks power program does all the time. They have the game down to 63-62, Northern Iowa lead with 35 seconds to go. Kansas is using a press. It's been working to get them back in this ball game. Northern Iowa breaks the press with 35 seconds to go. They kick it out to Ali Farouk-Manesh. He's on the right wing. 99% of the time, as a player, you're backing the ball out, running clock, making Kansas foul. You play the free throw game. Ali Farouk-Manesh said, nah. He pulled in rhythm and buried a three to give Northern Iowa a 66-62 lead and force Kansas to come down and try to get a quick bucket, which they ultimately ended in a charge. Northern Iowa goes on to win. Imagine how different history would have treated this if he would have shot that shot and missed, thus allowing Kansas a rebound, only down 1 with 30 seconds left on the clock to get a bucket to go ahead and potentially win the game. But the fact he had the cojones to shoot that in rhythm with that much time left, and then he made it, he will forever be immortalized in my mind. And that was my number 4 moment in my top 10 March Madness moments. Number 3 in my top 10 March Madness moments. This is more of a performance than it is a singular moment. But this happened back in the first year that we had formed ECB. We founded ECB, Peyton and myself, back in 2018, November of 2018. This was the tournament in 2019. We go to Louisville, Kentucky in the KFC Yum Center, Elite Eight. Purdue, Virginia. Winner goes to the Final Four. Carson Edwards puts a performance of a lifetime. Still probably the greatest single game NCAA tournament performance I've ever seen in my life. Carson Edwards goes for 42 points on 10 of 19 three-point shooting in a game in which Purdue ultimately lost 80-79 in overtime. That whole game's insane. Carson Edwards goes nuts. The end of regulation, Purdue has a chance. They're up 2. Virginia misses a shot. The ball gets tapped out. Then it gets thrown back, a little tip in by Diakite. It goes to overtime, and then we know how Virginia's story ended that year with the national championship. It came this close, and this close from a Carson Edwards masterful performance of 42 points, 10 three-point makes, from that not being the case, and Purdue making their first Final Four since 1980. I will never forget that. Carson Edwards was in fuego. He wasn't, I remember commenting, he wasn't just hitting from inside Louisville. He was hitting from Seymour, Indiana, which is about an hour north of Louisville. His range and his accuracy that day and the way he took over that game is something I'll never forget. That is my third most memorable March moment in the top 10 list. Number 2 in my top 10 March Madness moments. You go back to 2002. This is another kind of game encapsulated as a whole, but the specific moment. And I've got a funny story about this, why this means so much as well. So 2002, Indiana. They make the Sweet 16, but they got to play the reigning defending national champions, the number 1 seeded Duke, inside Rupp Arena, ironically. 2 schools playing inside Rupp that neither one particularly like Kentucky, and Kentucky doesn't like them. I was in middle school. I was in 6th grade at the time. My dad and I went to my cousin and her husband's house to watch this game. Duke's up big. We leave at halftime. I go to bed thinking the game's over with. Got school the next day. My dad comes running in, and when I say literally grabbing me, beating on me, and like in the nicest term, obviously, hitting me, wake up, IU's win. They're going to win. I was like, what? I get up, and sure as enough, I got to see the final segment there, the final 20 seconds. Indiana had erased like a 15-point lead, rallied back to get the lead, to the point where 11.1 seconds to go, IU's up 72-70. Duke fouls A.J. Moye, who goes to the free throw line and calmly knocks in 2 free throws to put him up 74-70. Duke rushes back down the floor. Daniel Ewing takes a three-point shot that is missed and then deflected back out to the top of the key. Jay Williams, the All-American Player of the Year, buries a three-point shot and is fouled by Dane Fife, who jumped into him. 74-73. The All-American going to the free throw line. A chance to tie this game up with under 5 seconds to go. He doinks the free throw. Carlos Boozer grabs the rebound right underneath the rim, doinks the layup, and then Indiana comes up with the rebound for an incredible win to knock out the reigning champs, the favorites of that tournament in 2002, inside Rupp Arena. That ultimately led to them going all the way to the national title game where they ultimately lost to Maryland. But I will never forget that for the story of thinking they're beat, getting woken up, then the craziness where they're up by 4, and then Jay Williams hits a 3 and gets fouled and then misses. I mean, insane game if you've never seen it. Go back and watch that sometime. But my number 2 moment of all the March Madness moments is the Indiana upset, more specifically that final 11.1 seconds with the free throws and then the fouling of Jay Williams makes it's craziness. That is my number 2 moment. And my number 1 moment in my top 10 countdown in the March Madness moments that I've ever remembered, it goes back to 1998. Kentucky, Duke. They're rematching back in the Elite Eight like they were 6 years prior in the famous game in 1992 where Christian Laettner hits the shot. Kentucky trying to erase some demons from that night. Duke jumps out to a 17-point lead early in the second half on Kentucky, and the Cats looked like they were dead and gone. Duke's going back to another Final Four. But the final 9 to 10 minutes of this game, Kentucky starts burying threes, getting stops, hitting threes, getting stops, and they've got the game back within reach. Coach K's burnt all of his timeouts. For about the last 6 minutes of this game, he's without a timeout, and Tubby Smith, one of the best coaching jobs I've ever seen, he said, I'm not going to call timeouts to allow your team to get set up because Coach K was so good, obviously, out of timeout situations. Tubby did not call a single timeout the final 6 minutes. The play that stands out to me more specifically in this run, though, to find the shot that finally gave Kentucky the lead for good in this game, Scott Padgett, I don't remember the exact time, it was like a minute and a half, under a minute, right around there. Buries a three at the top of the key, gives Kentucky the go-ahead bucket, and they never looked back. Ultimately, it led to Kentucky winning a national championship that year in 1998. The comeback Cats, baby. They trailed in every one of those games, essentially, and they end up winning a national championship, but it does not happen if they don't erase 17-point comeback in the second half against a powerful Duke team, capped off by Scott Padgett's three at the top of the wing, or top of the key. Beautiful. I'll always remember that, my favorite moment. And that, my friends, is my top 10 favorite March Madness moments. Let us hear it from you. What are your top 10 moments in the course of this beautiful sport and the beautiful month of March? What are your top 10 March Madness moments? Let us know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I hope you guys enjoyed this.